when you have extraordinary habits, you're going to live an extraordinary life. And it doesn't matter what happens to you. When we talk about incremental, not monumental, small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you when you do the right things every single day.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
In case you missed it.
But my vision is to be the most heart-centered brand, to provide experience, to fill the world with love, joy, and happiness.
Available everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have a super special episode where I am pumped about this guest because he is someone who wants to help you build confidence, gain clarity, and create community. He's dynamic, informative, and authentic on social media, which I love, by the way, all his content, as a speaker and as he helps leaders grow by teaching them how to reach their fullest potential. He's a father, a very proud father of 4 beautiful girls, a former pastor, and he's someone who knows that faith, family, and fulfillment play a huge role in attaining success. His real estate transactions are now well over 300 million, yet he continues to mentor individuals and plant churches. He's a renowned author of multiple books, including his latest release, As the Leader Grows. And he's just an all-around good-looking, great human being and someone who brings value and passion to all he elevates and all he touches. Please welcome the inspiring, motivating CEO of the Grow Stack Drive brand, Ken Joslin. Ken, welcome to the iSpark Change podcast. I
don't know that I have anything else to say after that introduction. I've been on some pretty cool podcasts and nobody's ever introduced me that good. So thank you, man. I'm super stoked to be here, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that because I really take pride in how I introduce my guests. So this is how I equate it, okay? Have you ever been to, if you've seen like those medieval movies where they would have the guy that would come out and introduce the king and he has to make him sound, amazing, right? And the gesture or whatever, and he comes out and introduces. That's how I look at it because you're doing me the favor of coming on the show. I want to honor you by letting everyone know how amazing you are.
Well, I appreciate it, man. That's good. Yeah, I don't know how amazing. I've got some amazing friends and an amazing Jesus that I follow. I guess I hang around them enough. That amazing rubs off on me, and maybe there's a little bit of amazing there. But dude, I'm honored to be here, man. Excited about our conversation today. Excited about the opportunity to be able to add value to your audience, man.
Yeah, thank you. And I have no doubt that you will. So I want to start off with the question I ask everybody at the top, and that's because we see you as someone that's spreading positive change in the world, someone who's making a positive impact on humanity. Your actions are making a positive impact on humanity. And by our definition on this show, we call you a social impact hero. Now that's an acronym, which I'm sure you're going to check all the boxes, but the first question I have to you, Ken, is do you see yourself as a hero?
I don't know that I see myself as a hero. My good friend, Wes Gay, is a story brand guide for Donald Miller. If you've ever read Donald Miller's story brand book. And one of the things I love about Wes is, and I have 2 stories and I'll frame this for you. Wes always talks about, it's not necessarily the heroes that really make the greatest impact, but it's the guides. It's the people like Obi-Wan Kenobi and all Yoda. It's the people that just help guide people through life that really help them have that aha moment. And I'll give you an example. I was in Vegas last week for EXPCon. Wasn't speaking, just there. Obviously, I'm an agent. I've got 51 agents in my organization with EXP. And I was spending some time with my good friend Noelle, who is one of the top agents in Minnesota. She has 560 agents in her organization with EXP. She's killing it. And super sharp. She's trying to figure out what the next phase of life is for her after real estate. Is it a podcast? Is it a book? I mean, she's a phenomenal communicator. She's a great leader. She's an attorney for good. Her and her husband are both attorneys. She's an attorney. And so I was just able to have conversations with her over 2 days to just literally help guide her into, not say, here's what you should do, but just asking her questions to help her discover that. And then I had the awesome opportunity. My good friend Brendan Burchard actually spoke at EXPCon. He was the keynote. I missed his session. And I found out that they had some kind of thing. If you signed up for this thing from Brendan, you could go to Brendan's suite at the Delano and get a photo op with Brendan. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go with you. So I get up there and Brendan's team sees me. And all of a sudden I hear, Ken Joslin, get your tail in here. Because it's this huge suite. And then in the back master bedroom, they had it turned into like a photo op place and just probably 200, 250 agents. It's a huge line. Mm-hmm. So I go in and I see Brendan and we're hanging out and he hugs my neck and he's like, dude, how are you doing? He said, come here, you'll be my first one to get a pick. So I got a pick. Noelle got a pick with us. Some other friends of mine that were there got picks. And then Brendan goes, I got to do these pictures and then I'm going to grab lunch. I got a couple hours this afternoon. I don't have any plans. He said, his mom lives in Vegas. He goes, I'm going to take her to dinner tonight. Come hang out this afternoon. I said, cool. So I said, Noelle and I are going to go grab some lunch and then we'll be back. And so we grabbed lunch. About an hour and a half later, we came back. Everybody's gone. It's Brendan, his 2 videographer guys, and a couple of the people just kind of coordinating the event for EXP. Mm-hmm. And we sat there for about 2 hours and talked with Brendan. And at one time, Brendan and I sitting on the couch together. We're talking some things because he just spoke at my conference in Dallas at Create. And we're just kind of catching up and the family and Napa and Randy Garn. That's how I met Brendan, was through Randy. He's a mutual friend of ours. And so I looked at Noelle and I'm like, Brendan, hang on a minute. Let me introduce you. So I brought Noelle over. I switched places with her. I put her on the couch next to Brendan. And I said, Brendan, I want to introduce you to Noelle. And here's kind of where she's at in life right now. And he walked her through in a beautiful, beautiful way, kind of what her options were and just encouraged her to go after what brought her joy. And so not a hero, but a guide. And my superpower is I'm a connector. I love connecting people. I'm in Dallas. I got here last night. I've got a friend of mine, Tina, who's an entrepreneur here in Dallas. Another friend of mine, Adora Evans. Adora is the female version of me and Randy Garn. She knows everybody. Like dude, she knows everybody. And she is highly connected. The Napoleon Hill Institute just named her the president or CEO over all of their coaching organization for Napoleon Hill. It's huge thing for her. And so Tina wanted to connect when I was in town, and Adora and her daughter wanted to connect. And obviously, I've got my 15-year-old daughter because we're doing our cross-country trip. And I'm like, why don't both of you guys come to dinner with us tonight? Because you guys both live here, and I want to connect you guys so you guys have this relationship when I leave and go home in a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And so I think the guide for all of us that want to, so many gurus on Instagram right now, bro, it's like, makes me sick.
Yes.
And we don't need gurus or heroes. We need guides. We need people that, man, like you and what you're doing, who have an authentic desire to want something for people, not from people. And are like, man, how can I connect you with the right people? How can I, 23 years ago, I'm one of the top youth pastors in the country. Got one of the largest youth ministries in the country. I'm at an event in Gatlinburg, Tennessee called Ski Invasion. I think there's 4,000 or 4,400 students there. I had like 175 to 200 of my kids. And I wasn't speaking, but one of my best friends was speaking, and he introduces me to a lady named Jeannie Mayo, who was, at that time, had the largest youth ministry in America. She had over 1,200 students in her youth ministry. I mean, her youth ministry was larger than most churches, and another 125 master's commission students who had committed a year to serve under her and get developed and discipled. And I walked back behind the stage before Richard and Jeannie speak, and Jeannie opens her Bible and she has my card for my National Youth Leadership Conference. And she goes, hey, man, I've been wanting to meet you. And she goes, man, I've heard you're doing amazing things. And she took a business card. This was before cell phones, if anybody can even remember what that was like, right? She handed me a business card and she wrote her private office number down. And she wrote the word banana. on it. And she handed me this card and she goes, Ken, you're going to be one of my bananas. She goes, I've got about 10 or 12 of you guys around the country that I'm in their life to have a 10,000 foot view of what's going on so you can avoid the landmines and potholes of what's coming down the road ahead. And I'll never forget, man, when I walked away from that, and then she became a very close mentor of mine for several years. Mm-hmm. She was a guide for me. She literally helped me avoid the landmines and potholes. And I think, man, listen, if we ever needed anything right now in our country and in leadership, it's leaders who want something for people, not from people. And they truly have a heart to guide people and just help them along the journey. It's not about being the hero or the guru. I know a lot of stuff. I'm pretty talented. I know a lot of stuff. I can do a lot of things. But man, I'd rather just help people and help and guide them and offer wisdom, just like Jeannie did for me 23 years ago or 24 years ago. Man, I'm here to help you avoid the landmines and potholes of life.
So thank you for sharing that, because it's interesting. You know, you talk about mentorship and being a guide, and we will talk more about that in a minute. But I want the audience to reflect a bit on what you were saying, because that's such a key. It speaks to that servant leadership, right? It's such a key component of leadership, to want something for people, not from people. And so often in today's world is that it's all about me. What can I get? What can I do for myself? And that used to be like, you go back 20 years, 30 years, that's how people made it to the top. They would climb up on top of everyone else to make it to the top. But now it's about, well, no, let me see how I can lift you up, and then you can help me up, and, so forth. And that's how I see it kind of evolving. So I want to ask, because I was going to ask about mentorship, because I know that you're big on mentorship and you think that's super, super important. And connections obviously are important, right? Having peers, having relationships, and mentors and mentees. I've heard you talk about that. Where does that desire to inspire others, that desire to be a guide to others, where did that originate? Because to use my nomenclature, right? Every hero has an origin story that kind of gets to how they've become, how they're doing the work that they're doing today. Yeah. And that's what I want to know. I want to know how did it start for you?
Yeah. Everything I've done for the past 35 years, I have been super fortunate and super blessed to be around the best people in the world. The first time I refereed high school and women's college basketball for about 17, 18 years. Mm-hmm. The first time I ever stepped on a high school basketball court for summer camp in 91, 92, my clinician was a lady named Sally Bell. Sally's the most decorated women's official in the history of the game. She's worked 13 Final Fours and national championships. She was the one sole woman picked to work the Olympics for the representative from the United States in 1996 in Atlanta. She was the first person chosen to officiate in the WNBA, and then helped and was the coordinator for officials. And then right before she retired, she was a conference coordinator for officials for 7 Division I conferences, including the SEC. I mean, she's the number one women's official of all time. Outside of being in the NBA, which before, like Lauren Holtkamp, who's in the NBA now, came out of my group. She was mentored by Sally and 2 of my mentors. And so when you get around people like that, I've umpired college baseball for years. My first high school camp, Marvin Hudson came out of my group. Marvin's been a big league crew chief for 2 or 3 years now, and he's been in the big leagues for 23 years. Marvin taught me how to umpire. Rusty Griffin, who's a couple years younger than me, went to the same high school, worked all the way into AAA and worked about 500 regular season big league games, was one of my best friends when I got back into umpiring about 5 or 6 years ago. I worked a couple hundred games with him. Like, you can't help but get better when you surround yourself with those kind of people. When I went into ministry, I was around the best people in the world. When I started doing real estate, I'm around the best people in the world. When I went to start this, it was because I'd met a guy named Grant Cardone, and I went to a thing called 10X Boot Camp. And it literally, what I told Grant was, the businessman on the inside of me got born again when I went down there. It was an unbelievable experience for me. Grant and I don't talk near as much as we used to. We used to be really close, but I mean, now I'm off doing my thing and he's off doing his thing. And I don't agree with everything he does. So if you're listening to this and you don't like G, that's good. I get it. Because there's some things I do. Bro, you can't do that, man. Like, you can't do that. But I honor him because he was the spark in me that got me going to go, oh. And people go, Ken, what's GSD like? And I tell them this all the time. It's like 10X and the church that I planted got together and had a baby. It's like this faith-based, passionate entrepreneurial community of people who really, really, really want to live out their purpose and become the best version of themselves in what we call our core five: faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. And it really is. How did I get to become who I am? Because the people that I had along the way in my life, all of the guides and people that poured into me, all I've done is just pay that forward in other people's lives. And listen, dude, I'm not the sharpest guy. I'm not the sharpest tool in the woodshed. But let me tell you what I do is good or better than anybody else. When somebody tells me something, I do it. When Grant would say, hey, Ken, have you thought about this? Nope, but I'll try it. Have you risked this? Have you done this? And I've done that with every mentor and person that I've had in my life for probably the last 25 to 30 years. If I know they've achieved a level of, you can say success, significance, whatever you want to call it, and I see, man, you've done well, you've made impact and caused change in the lane that you're in, and I'm also in that lane. I'm just a mile or two behind you, and I watch you. I'm going to emulate what you do. I'm going to do what you do. So that, I think, is where the passion for me was birthed, to be able to do the same thing in other people's lives.
It really speaks, Ken, to your willingness to grow and your willingness to learn from anywhere you can, right? To realize that you don't know it all, because you talk about the internet gurus and everything, social media. There's people that try to paint this picture that they know it all, right? That, oh, I'm the one that can teach you everything. I know it all. And from you, I get that, no, you understand that there's always something to be learned. There's always some growth to be had. And that's one of the secrets to, success, is to learn from others that have obviously, had success. So what would you say to the individual? So I've had a lot of conversations with people, and I was just having this conversation with some business partners a couple of days ago, in wanting to do this program, that costs a large amount and everything, and they're only seeing the dollar signs, and I'm seeing the value that it's going to bring to the business. Right. What would you say to that individual that, I'm not talking about that thinks they know it all, but that individual that says, no, I don't need a mentor. I don't need a coach. I can figure it out. I can figure it out. Maybe I don't know it, but I'm going to figure it out. I can read, listen to a podcast. I can, learn other ways.
Yeah, you can do all those things. I would say two things. Number one, you have a scarcity mindset. Scarcity tells you there's not enough to go around. You have scarcity if you either save everything you have or you spend everything you have. And I think that there's a mindset in that. There's a mindset, and it's a lack of understanding. Like, you legitimately don't know the power of a mentor. You look at all the people that I've had in my life for the past 35 years. What if Sally Bell, what if I get put on a different court that day and Sally's not my condition? What if Marvin Hudson's what if he's not running that high school clinic, the first one I ever went to? And then I just had a desire to get better and learn. And because of that, I was able to get close. The first big kind of officiating thing I did was in 96. And it's actually been 95. I was only like 2 years into working. I was already working in 2 years, working some of the larger high school varsity basketball games in my area. Because, dude, I was a sponge. I would go to college games and watch Sally. Doc and Nan. Doc was the superintendent of one of the county schools near me. They both were in the SEC and the ACC. Nan also worked at Olympics in Greece in 2000. She also worked a women's national championship in Final Four. I would fly with them to go to, Tennessee La Tech games or Tennessee UConn games in Knoxville with Gino and Pat Summitt. And I would sit there and watch them officiate. And I would go in the locker room and I would listen to them review plays at halftime or at the end of the game, talk about, okay, hey, what about this play? And what about this play? And they would talk about how they were officiating. Like, I was a sponge. And dude, when you get around people like that, like you start to understand, man, there is power. There is so much power in mentorship. My good friend Erwin McManus called me about 5 months ago. Dude, I'm eating tacos in Birmingham. I'm at the greatest. Listen, if you've ever been to Birmingham, Alabama on 280 across the street from Aldi, there's a Shell station with a taco truck. It's the best tacos in America. I'm just telling you. I'm
going there when I go to Birmingham.
I'm grubbing on tacos. Dude, I live 3 miles from there. Call me. We'll go get tacos together. I'm eating tacos. My phone rings. It's up on my dash, right? And I look at it, Erwin, and I'm like, what's up, buddy? What you need? And I'm eating tacos. He goes, man, I got a question for you. He said, thinking about starting this business mastermind. He goes, do you think I can do it? And I laughed at him. I was like, what do you mean do I think you can? Dude, he coaches some of the top people in the world. Sean McVay, head coach for the Rams, Jamie Lee Kerma, Paulo and Jamie, coaches both of them. Dave Mora, billionaire. I mean, he's got 2 or 3 billionaires that he coaches, plus a ton of professional people. And I literally was like, dude, really? Like, you want to know whether or not you can do this? And he's like, yeah, man, you think I can try to make that transition in from pastoring into really making an impact in the business community and take who I am? And it's funny because I was with him this weekend and he used the word essence. He like talking about people's essence because that's like that's Erwin's language, right? At Mosaic. And I was like, bro, I said, how much is your mastermind? He goes, it's $30,000. I said, send me an invoice and I'll have my girl wire you some money. I want in. He goes, man, I didn't call you to sell you anything. I said, I know you didn't, but I know this. If Erwin McManus puts on a mastermind, there's going to be some killers in that room. There's going to be some amazing entrepreneurs and some amazing human beings that I need to know and I need to meet. And I don't know if you know Ben Newman or not. Ben just finished his big event in Atlanta. I knew Ben. It's almost like you and I. I knew Ben from social and he knew me and blah, blah, blah. We never spent time together. Well, Ben at the mastermind in Erwin's house, he was the guy sitting right next to me. And dude, we were texting back and forth this morning. I knew Ben was my guy when I looked down and we both had the 2001 All-Star black patent leather Air Jordans on. And we looked at each other and I was like, nice shoes, dude. And he looked down and he was like, I knew we were going to be brothers. And we just kind of fist bumped. Well, that came from what? From where Erwin's at. And I would not have had that relationship or the relationship that I had with Erwin had I not said, you know what? Is 30 grand a lot of money? Of course it is. It's not cheap. Dude, I spent 6 figures last year on mentorship and coaches. 6 figures. Like, I'll say this to you, and I realized this myself. No, I didn't hear anybody else say this was something. I was like, oh, this really works. The first time I paid $10,000 to go sit in a room with Grant for 2 days at a mastermind, it was like 30 of us. This was in June of 2020, right after COVID. June of 2020, I paid $10K to sit in a room with Grant for 2 days. And it saved years off of my growth because of some of the information I got from Grant. Mm-hmm. And when you understand how much you can circumvent off the growth of your business by somebody else's knowledge, by somebody else being able to speak into your life, by somebody else going, hey, Rick, have you thought about this? Hey, if you looked at it from this perspective and being able to speak wisdom into something, because you just don't know. And the bad part about it is when you don't have a coach or you're not investing in yourself when it comes to mentorship and coaching and being in different, communities and those kind of things, when you're not, you really are the guy in the room or girl in the room that don't know what they don't know. And man, you don't ever want to be that person because you're never going to fulfill what God's called you to fulfill.
And I think I'm so glad that you summed it up that way because, I heard you say, and I don't remember where you heard this from, but it was, God gave us the mind of Christ so we can live extraordinary lives.
That was Erwin.
I thought it was Erwin. Yeah. And so, I think, giving the glory to God and understanding that he wants us to thrive. He wants us to become the best that we possibly can. Right. And not stay in a bubble or in a shell. The point that I want to kind of amplify that you were making is that, and it's something else that I was going to ask you about, is about that incremental, not monumental. Is that, again, today people would want you to believe that you just snap your fingers and you can be successful, right? And you're going back to the early 90s talking about stuff that had an impact, right? Yeah. That's not yesterday, right?
No.
And so that was something that I think for me at least, because, you know, I know what you're about, that came out of what you were just describing, is that journey, and I'll call it the hero's journey for my show, but that hero's journey of you know, becoming the hero at the end, or you're a hero the whole time, but becoming that, you know, best version of yourself doesn't happen overnight. It happens with those small incremental steps that are going to keep leveling you up. Those relationships, those mentorships, those conversations, those dinners, those, you know, masterminds, whatever they are, that those all play a role. And so I guess you're maybe speaking to the same person as you were that didn't want to invest in themselves, but to the person that wants that, oh, I just want it now. I just want it now. And, you know, maybe they don't want to put in the work. What would you say to that person about going through that process?
Oh man, let me hit the first thing on somebody that doesn't want to put the work in. Anytime I've ever been around anybody that didn't want to do the work, it was caused by a couple of things. Number one, they've never seen anybody up close do it to know that it's possible. Number two, they really have some self-limiting beliefs on themselves. Like they really have some limiting beliefs. Like, man, I'm just not sure I can pull this off. They've never seen God put a dream in their heart and then that thing come to fruition. And I'm telling you, dude, I just walked through one of the most painful seasons of my life in the last 2 weeks, 11 days ago. I can't talk about it yet publicly, but it was one of the two, outside of losing twins 25 years ago, that my wife was 6 months pregnant with. It was one of the most painful moments of my life. I was on my community call last night with a few dozen entrepreneurs that are in my community. And I said, guys, when we talk about incremental, not monumental, small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you when you do the right things every single day. Listen, when you have extraordinary habits, you're going to live an extraordinary life. And it doesn't matter what happens to you. Dude, the world can punch you in the gut and knock all the wind out of your sails. Well, when that happened to me last Monday, guess what I did on Tuesday morning when I got up? I wrote down my goals, gratitude, affirmations, and top 3. I got up and I went to the gym. I got up and I did what I do. I did not stop. I did not waver. I didn't think about it. Well, this sucks. You know what? It did suck. This is freaking terrible. It was terrible. But I didn't sit there. I said, you know what, God? I'm going to get up and I'm going to do what I know that I'm supposed to do, because I've got a dream. I've got a vision that you put in my heart. I know what it looks like in my mind for Ken Joslin to become the best version of himself. And that's who I'm going to become. And I'm not going to let something that tragic or something, you know, that painful stop me from doing what I'm doing. The reality of it is once you start, you know, for me in my morning routine, goals, gratitude, affirmations, top 3. My alarm, I had it set for 5 this morning because we're in Dallas, different time zone, because we came out of Pacific, then we went to Mountain, now we're in Dallas. So I'm in my time zone now. I told my daughter last night, you know, when I got to my time zone, I set my alarm for 5. Man, at 3:56, I was wide awake this morning. Bam. I was up and like, okay, let's go. Like I'm looking, like I'm ready to go. My workout clothes are ready. My pre-workout's already mixed up. I mean, I'm ready to hit the gym at 5. Goals, gratitude, affirmations, top 3. I know exactly what my day looks like. Like it's not guesswork for me. Oh, what am I going to do today? Oh, how am I going to fill my, no, it's not guesswork for me. Why? Even in those moments that are hard, financial, you know, your finances are falling apart. You've got friends that betray you. You've got a romantic relationship that betrays you. Whatever it is, when you know exactly this is what I'm going to do today, listen, nothing can stand, and it may not be fun. It may suck like crazy. But I'm telling you, in the long run, the incremental, not monumental, always works. And I heard Rick Warren say this at a pastor's conference years ago. He said, we always overestimate what we can do in the short term, and we always underestimate what we can do in the long term. Yeah. Dude, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Now, we think it's a sprint because we see all the sexy guys and sexy girls on Instagram renting Lambos or standing in front of somebody's plane. Dude, I don't think I've ever taken a picture. I think I took one. And that was my buddy Steve Harden. No, that was actually my buddy Jason Haugen's plane in Utah. Me and Randy Garn and Sean Whalen and some other guys were flying home from Ed Milet's house, and we flew on his jet. I think that's the only time I've ever taken a picture. And it was all of us, like all 6 guys. I'm not doing that, dude. I'm not. You don't ever see my Range Rover on my Instagram. Like, you don't see any of that stuff. Like that stuff doesn't matter. And we think it's a sprint because of what we see on social media and how everything is, woo, it's made just great. But the reality of it is most of those guys that started 3 years ago when I started, they're not around anymore.
Yeah. I want everybody to remember that success cannot escape you if you do the right things every day. You have the power of habits, right? Brendan Burchard, talks about it. I mean, I love his stuff, High Performance Habits, and so many others. And I've, immersed myself in that for, probably the past six or 7 years. And it's really changed my life. And, we have similar morning routines. So I can appreciate that, Ken. I want to shift gears a little bit because you talk about working out, and I see you working out on social media, and, fitness has been a part of myself and my wife's life, for as long as we've known each other and even before that. And I think there's some lessons to be learned from that journey and some correlations, especially to the incremental, not monumental, right? You've had a weight loss journey, right? You started out, you were over 300, right? You were, and, I know you worked out, I see your videos with F45 and all that stuff, which I've done, dripping from sweat, but talk, because I think, for someone, one of the struggles I've had is in communicating like the power of those habits, or communicating the incremental, not monumental, to someone that it's so foreign to. It's hard for them to get started, right? It's hard for them to, kind of like Rick Warren's quote, it's hard for them to see what they can create over the long term.
Yeah.
But in something like fitness or weight loss, that's very tangible, that people can grab onto. So talk about that. I think that's a great segue to talk about that journey and how, what you learn from that and how it correlates.
Yeah. Here's the deal. The incremental, not monumental concept came probably in the first 6 months of my health journey. I mean, I'm down to over 80 pounds. When you see, every time I show my before and after picture, I was speaking to a group of about 400 or 500 physicians in Atlanta in a couple of weeks, plus my mastermind, plus my conference. I mean, I speak all over the country. Every time I show that picture, the audience gasps. They're like, oh, it shocks them. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like the most important 10 minutes of your day. You're listening to this podcast right now. I'm telling you, the most important 10 minutes of your day are the 10 minutes before you go to bed. Looking at your calendar for the next day and going, okay, let me get this calendar full of time. I have 4 color codes on my calendar: blue, green, yellow, red. Blue is my personal time, my quiet time, my gym time, my podcast time, my reading time, whatever I'm doing to develop me. My therapist, I have 2 therapists, and one of my therapists speaks at every one of my conferences. I bring her in because I want people to understand that therapy should be normal, should be as normal as changing the oil in your car. You don't get your oil changed in your car when your engine locks up. You get your oil changed every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, so your car functions properly in the way that your car needs to function. Same thing with therapy. All they're doing is they have a 10,000-foot view of what's going on, helping you process life, because sometimes it can be difficult. And the reality of it is the whole incremental, not monumental concept came from this journey. 10 minutes a day. What are you going to do the next day? It's the most important time of your day. Literally, before I go to bed, I know what my next day looks like. I know I'm not wasting any time. And all of those activities on my day timer on this side of my planner should then match up with the goals that I have that are moving the needle, getting me closer to what I know God's put in my heart when it comes to my faith, health, relationship, business, and finances.
That it seems so simple, right? It's the simple things that escape people, escape, their grasp.
Dude, it is simple. It's like people are looking for this magic formula. Dude, when Erwin got up at my conference I had Brendan there, Erwin was there, Gary Brecka, myself, Randy Garn. Dude, the lineup was insane. And when Erwin got up on Wednesday night for the pre-conference, and he just said, he read the scripture, I think it's in 1st or 2nd Corinthians, like chapter 2, where Paul says Jesus gives us the mind of Christ. Mm-hmm. He said, God didn't give you the mind of Christ for you to stop sinning. He gave you the mind of Christ for you to live an extraordinary life. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh. So I changed my whole talk for Thursday morning to open the conference for everybody. I changed my entire talk to extraordinary habits. will lead to an extraordinary life. And it's funny because Brenda spoke right behind me. We were walking off stage and Brenda goes, dude, you took my whole talk. I said, nice talk, Coach.
I'm sure people learned plenty. I'm sure people learned plenty from both of you. Well, you know, I know you use guide, I use hero, hero Ken, but I want you to know that, I want you to know the acronym. H honors your purpose, E engages your audience in your mission, R ripples your message to spread positive change and connect them with your life stories and open your heart to the world. So I would say without a doubt, you've done all of those four, which makes you, by our definition, that social impact hero. I trust that you will guide many an individual when they listen to this podcast. And so I thank you for your heartfelt answers. Yeah. And I thank you for, opening your heart and sharing all of that with everyone, because it does mean a lot. So I have a few final questions that are things that I ask all my guests on the iSpark Change podcast, because they really speak to that heroic journey, that incremental, not monumental, if you will, that growth process. So one thing we talk about on the show are these spark moments in life. And you used that term earlier about, the spark, right? With the official is we have these spark moments in life. And these are these spark moments where someone has an impact on our life. That one action, that one time, that one moment that they spend with us has an impact that goes far beyond and creates that ripple effect in our life. Or it may be that we've done that for someone else's life. Mm-hmm. So without knowing it, you've probably rattled off, 4 or 5 spark moments in this program. But if you can share a different example of a time where either someone, had that spark moment in your life, or you impacted someone else that you didn't realize the impact until much later.
Yeah, I mean, all the examples that I mentioned today, as far as, my officiating career and whether it be basketball or umpiring career in college baseball, my ministry, my time in ministry, building one of the largest youth ministries in America, all the things I did, I look back now and I'm like, wow, man, God, you put great people in my life. Even the journey that I've been on over the last 3.5 years building this. I had a guy, my current COO, he's a fractional COO for us, Jim, was in my community when I first started it. COVID hit. I literally, like February of 2020, I started this community. He was a CFO for a national theater brand, one of the luxury, reclining seats, bring the food and, mixed drinks and all the stuff down to your table. COVID hit and he lost his job because they shut the theaters down, right? Yeah. COVID hit, shut the theaters down. I got him connected with Grant and Jared, and they Grant hired him to be his CFO. And he was Grant's CFO for about 3.5 years. Well, I saw him at GrowthCon last year and he goes, hey, dude, the end of the month, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm going to go start something. I want to do some fractional COO, CFO stuff for companies. Well, about a month and a half ago, we were talking and I'm like, dude, I need you to come work with me. Like I need a good integrator. I'm reading Rocket Fuel about the VI relationship, about the visionary, the integrator. I need a good integrator. And dude, I trust you. We have a great relationship. And he goes, man, let's talk about it. So I hired him the 1st of September. He's been on with me for a month and a half. And this has been the greatest thing I've ever done. Well, that relationship that started 3.5 years ago has now turned into something. We were just friends. Now it's turned into something where, man, we're positioning ourselves to make greater impact than we've ever done before. And it came through the power of that one relationship.
Perfect example. And one that amplifies that you never want to take any interchange with someone, any relationship for granted. It goes back to what you started the podcast talking about, the connections, right? Being a connector, that how super important that is. So thank you for sharing that. It's a great example of a spark moment. Beautiful example. So I know our audience is going to want to learn more about you, Ken. They're going to want to connect, pick up your book, As the Leader Grows. Where's the best place for them to connect, learn more, be part of your community?
Yeah, you can get a free digital copy of the book at book.growstackdrive.com. I think you can put it in the show notes. And then for me, dude, it's super easy. Instagram at Ken Joslin, KenJoslin. I'm the only one that handles my DMs. Nobody else gets my DMs. But I will tell you this, ladies, don't be sending me crazy DMs because they do run through my CRM and my team sees them. not that I get those kind of emails. Not that I get a lot of those DMs, but just be careful because every now and then I do. But yeah, it's just at Ken Joslin on Instagram. It's my account. I handle everything on them. I've got a team that does all my videos and those kind of things. But as far as DMs, if you get a DM, it's from me.
All right. Fantastic. Yeah, you did respond to us. So thank you. And yes, check out his content. You will love it. I love it. Been following for a long time. So we will put all that in the show notes. And thank you for the book link. That is phenomenal for the audience. So I have one final question, Ken, which we ask all our guests on the iSpark Change podcast, because our goal at iSpark Change is to positively impact 1 billion people within 5 years of launching our upcoming social impact social media community. Now, we know we can't do this alone. We know we need the help of impactful leaders like you to show others the way, because many people feel, as I used to, that they're too small to make a difference. So I value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero, or guide, if you will. So I'm going to ask you to peer into the iSpark Change crystal ball, peer into our future, and tell me, what can the world become if everyone starts believing that they can have an impact on our future and take those incremental steps to the monumental results?
Yeah. It can be an amazing place to live. It can be a place to where people are like, man, I want to go to sleep. This is too awesome. Or when they are asleep, they're like, man, I can't wait to get up in the morning, because man, this is an amazing life I get to live. And I would say this: don't wait on the world to get there. You make the change. You make the journey. I have so many amazing friends in my life. My life's like that a lot of the times already. I have such amazing friends and such amazing relationships. But my 15-year-old sitting over here in our room in Dallas listening to me do this podcast. And tomorrow we're headed to Grambling, and I'm going to speak to the football team Saturday morning before their homecoming game at Grambling for Coach Hugh. Like, I have so many amazing relationships right now. I mean, my life's kind of like what you just described. Are there hard times? Yes. Do we have something tragic happen? Yes. All this stuff happens. Man, when you lean into the power of relationship and you really do practice incremental, not monumental, I'm telling you, it is a game changer. And the reality of it is all the potential that God's put on the inside of your heart, in your life, the vision, the dreams, the passions, all those things, you really can see those things come to fruition.
Well, Ken said it very eloquently, but the simplified, what you can take away, listeners, Impact Hero community, from what he said, is that life that Ken is living, that's possible for anybody. That's possible for anybody, any of you. You just have to go out there and make it happen and build those relationships. So, Ken, I want to thank you for your time today, taking some time to share your heart and wisdom with our audience. You came in, you over-delivered, as I knew you would. Your passion, fortitude, and impact are evident. You're humble, faith-filled, and you lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of life. And this is only the beginning of your social impact.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. All right. Thanks again, Ken. All right, Impact Heroes, it's our stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Ken's today. Ken Joslin, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Do you want Rick to speak at your event? Here's what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Performance made me feel some type of way. My name is Craig Siegel.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickcornelis.com to book him today.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.